Legacy 90.1.
Yes, and welcome back here on Tune to the Search Engine with Anthony. This is the Tap Talks meets Search Engine. I'm in the studio at the moment with Otis, and we are able to go over and say good evening, I hope, to Justin and Bevis. First of all, Justin, because you're furthest away in Zambia, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Okay, let me see, how's that now?
I'm here.
Yeah, I can hear you. That's a bit better. All right, and Bevis?
Good evening, sir. I'm here.
Could you hear Justin okay, Bevis?
I can hear Justin fine. Perfectly
Brilliant. Okay, I'm going to leave the introductions up to Otis at the moment, and I'm just going to jump in and out.
Okay, yeah. Evening, gentlemen. Thank you for coming on the show with us.
Thank you.
Yes, so I came across...
Thank you for having us.
No worries. I came across your website a couple of weeks back, and it was just very inspiring to see you out there actually walking the walk and not just talking it. So I thought it'd be good to share what you're doing with the community within Manchester, and then see how we can get involved and engage with what you're doing as a sort of some potential investment opportunities as well. So I just wanted to give you a platform to put yourselves out there amongst the people up north.
All right. Who's going first? Is that you want to say something on that? Justin, please do. Okay. All right, we'll do. So basically, it's an idea that we've had for quite a long time, and I know it's not new to anyone, but I've just been traveling trying to find where and how we could find a place to settle outside of the UK. I think my main ethos with this thing is a lot of what our parents came to England from the Caribbean to get has already been got, and it's time for us to make our way home. So in this initial phase, I started looking towards the Caribbean to see if there were spaces for me and my family, yes, to go back, and also in Ghana. But I think when we tried the first time, it was like 2004, going back as one individual family didn't seem to make as much sense because of all the challenges that are there. You're not actually going back as a community, you're going back as an individual into an entrenched community, and it was really difficult because 400 years of leaving Africa does not let us go back to Africa, as you know, we have attained some differences. So I worked with some other people, predominantly a brother called Raymond Mohammed from the Nation of Islam, as we were both members, or we both are active members within the Nation of Islam. And then we started looking. We had some friends who travelled with us from different organisations and different spaces. And then I guess if I cut to the chase, after going to different places in Africa, I went to Nigeria, I've been to Ethiopia, I've been to Gambia, and where else did I go? Ethiopia. I've also been to, one more, but it escapes me. The best place I found was Zambia. And the reason I liked Zambia so much is the opportunities that were there, the climate, the people, and the fact that I felt we could go back in large numbers at the right price and live, work, and exist in a much more free way than we were presently in the UK, and also would be able to get started faster than we could in the Caribbean, because a lot of those islands, being small, real estate's very expensive, and the opportunity is also quite limited. Stop me if at any point anyone wants to ask anything, but this being the case, I came here in May of this year and met up with a really good and mixed group of Zambians and put the idea to them, and they really loved it and have been helping me and then us to really get going with that. After I did my travels, the gentleman on the other end of the phone, Bevis, actually asked me to come and do a talk about it, which I did in Luton first. And after doing that talk, I then got more and more people involved. We've got together with an ever-growing group. We started pooling our resources, and up to this point, we've managed to purchase, I think, 550 acres of land. We've got a partnership agreement for 2,500 acres of mining land. We've got a restaurant and office development on the go, and we've got ourselves a home for the group, as well as vehicles and machinery and equipment, all in Zambia and raring to go. So that's pretty much where we are. Forgive me if I've missed something, Bevis. You can fill in.
Well, you've covered it very well, Justin. Yes, correct.
Cheers.
From my point of view, yes, I knew about you from your various activities and travels to various parts of the world, and one of our members from the Luton Black Men Community Group, because I myself, Bevis, I am a member of the Luton Black Men Community Group, as well as a member of some other groups such as the 100 Black Men of London. We've heard of other groups and organisations going to various parts of the African continent and also the Caribbean, and taking people to dip their feet and get their toes wet on the African continent. And we've heard of many people that have been able to repatriate and emigrate from the UK, and it's just always been very impressive for me, because I am a member of a number of different groups within the UK. One of them being Nubian Ski, where many black people get together to go and ski all over the world. But that is very much social and very much entertaining, but in terms of longevity and building a future, it's more of a case of just as a social enterprise and social activity as such. But once I found out about Justin Mohammed and what he was doing, I was very much intrigued to have him come and speak at the Luton Black Men at one of our events, because we've done a number of events in the Luton Black Men around economics, travel, education through film, health, and his Black history and various other activities. And that's where Justin Mohammed fitted in very nicely. And the actual outcome of it, Justin coming to see us, was that so many people were impressed, touched, and wanted to know more about the African continent. And that's how we really got this going from our point of view. And that's me, Bevis.
It is as I was saying to always before, it's a topic that has had many discussions, and I think for a lot of people it's like sometimes like a dream or a fantasy, but there's that fear, obviously, in the sense of what's gone on over the years and how much we've been kind of indoctrinated to see Africa as a place of a lot of negative. I can understand how you brothers sharing that information to people that may have never been allowed to see that the opportunities that are available would be quite exciting. What did people actually at these events share elements of surprise from what it was that you were sharing, and what were some of the fears that they also shared with you?
Do you know what? It's been like, I guess the fears are, as you said, it's the way that we've been indoctrinated. And even those of us, I put it on myself as well, most of us, even if we have a conscious view of Africa, it's very difficult if you haven't really got to grips with the place, you visit for a holiday, it's very difficult not to let the effects of being in England, I know for the last 50 or 60 years affect you, because your environment shapes you. So you have to get outside of your environment. So a lot of people are worried about the economy. A lot of people are worried about, is it war torn? Will I be shot in my bed? But even people who are on the project with us, we're still having to remind each other, look, remember, I think one of the things people say to me is it safe? So I'm like, well, what do you mean, is it safe? Well, crime and whatever. I'm like, do you really understand the crime in the UK? Because, Fred West and the Yorkshire Ripper, these are English people. The Yorkshire Ripper, yeah, that's it. Oh, the crimes that we have, we've got our young people killing each other on the streets in the UK. They don't have a situation like that here. Like, I'm not being woken up. I'm in Zambia now. We're not being woken up with, these young people have been killing each other over this, that, or the other. There's absolutely no need for it. So we have that view because we're in England. We have that view because of our education. If we get out here, it's something different. Most people worry about what the prevailing establishment wants you to worry about. But one thing that touched me was everywhere I went in Africa, I saw Turkish people, Lebanese people, Chinese people, English people en masse, German people, American people, flying into these countries to do business, to live, and none of them were worried. There was little old white ladies in the airport looking for visas when I arrived, and none of them were there worrying about, will it be safe? So who taught us, as people who came from the continent, that we needed to be worried about going back? So yeah, there has been fears, but I think the last group who came out, and Bevis, you can attest to this, was just amazed by, one, the development, but two, the spirit of the people. You're not in a space that you actually needed to be here panicking all day. One of our people left her phone in a public toilet. We drove some 20 or 30 miles up the road, and she remembers, we come back, not only is the phone there, it's actually being charged. They've charged the phone for her and kept it till she got back. But we're worried about crime. So yeah, there is a lot of worries, but it doesn't bode out well if you really are thinking about living here and working here. From my vantage point, I think it's a much safer environment than the one that many of us presently live in.
And it's not just obviously about the environment; it's about the economic development as well. And in so many areas, it does seem at the moment that Africa are beginning to take a leaf out of Trump's book and start talking about Africa first. And so the future seems in some ways to be turning around. And what would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really is. Even when I came, and one of the things people don't know about the history of Zambia, it's always been a stronghold of independent thought. So it's growing and growing on the African continent, because as more as you show them the lifestyles of the rich and famous, or countries developing, they want development too, which is nothing strange. Who doesn't? But then as they're doing it, they're realizing we have money in Africa, and the only reason we don't is because the natural resources are controlled by others. If they get control of their natural resources and get rid of the few who enrich themselves to the detriment of the many, well, you're looking at a huge superpower on the way. And China's a great example, because 100 years ago, what condition was China in? And just by trade and industry, look at the condition that China's in today. So yeah, it's definitely changing.
So somebody's listening. So somebody's listening here now. Yeah, as obviously Bevis did when he heard brought you to talk, and in their heart they really do want to be in Africa. They want to invest in Africa. Where could somebody start? What opportunities are there, and what type of capital can somebody start with?
Well, to me, this is what next level developments is about. If I came to Zambia and was going to start by myself, I could possibly get a home, a car, and maybe invest in whatever my trade was. I think it was Akon who said, whatever it is you do in America, just come to Africa and do that. So if you do painting and decorating, just come and do that. If you do, I'm trying to think of another, you're an electrician or a plasterer, if you're a nurse or a teacher, just come and do that. But maybe I would say, as an individual, in Zambia anyway, I would say 15 to 20,000 pounds is enough to go as an individual. But it's hard going, and you have to do it by yourself. Imagine you spend 5 or 10, but you went in a group of 50. Well, the buying power is all different, because now we can purchase 100 acres of land, and then we start developing and bringing the skills of those 50 people together to actually build homes for all 50. Then we can start having a community with schools and with a clinic and offices and recreation spaces, and actually really for a fraction of the cost build for everybody. The problem that we've had is, when we're talking about how do you go there if you really want to, one of the things we've been taught isn't just about the underdevelopment of Africa. What we've been taught is you have to do it by yourself, which is a mistake. Because wherever I've seen foreign people coming to Africa to do business, they're not going alone. They're going in groups. They're doing trade missions. Governments are supporting their individual citizens en masse to come to different spaces. But we're still trying to do it by ourselves with whatever little money we've got left after we paid humongous UK bills.
Have you, Bevis, have you been over to Zambia or to visit any of these countries?
Yes, just recently, a group of us went to visit for about a week or so. We went, and we just come back this Tuesday, a couple of days ago, and we were very much impressed with what we saw. I mean, I've also been to Gambia, and Zambia is my second country that I visited on the continent, and equally impressed. I was very much impressed with the way that they've developed, you know, the inner cities. Yes, the rural areas are very much the same in many African countries in terms of the level of destitution and the way in which they live by farming and subsistence living. But nevertheless, the towns and the cities are very much developed to a standard that, you know, would most Europeans, most people from the diaspora would be happy to exist within. For instance, the malls that they have built in Zambia are very vast and very spacious, and you don't actually see policemen in en masse or security people patrolling the malls. You don't actually see, at the end of the day, that they're in a hurry to lock up and secure the venue in terms of making sure that no, vagrants, vagabonds, or vandals get into the premises, and you don't have people who are there to spend time doing nothing, doing drugs or whatever, because they've got nowhere else to go. So it's a totally different look at the society, as Justin mentioned previously. When we think of the situation here that occurs and the violence that occurs in the UK, we've got the killing of the MP Joe Cox, and we've got things like the nail bombs. We've got the killings that occur on our streets daily. We've got the county lines. We've got train and bus bombs, all kinds of things going on in this country. A horrendous level of violence, which we normalise and think there's nothing. But the moment something occurs on the African continent, they amplify it and make it seem like it's a place of danger. And as Justin mentioned, everybody else is going there en masse and making profit. And I've been a firm advocate of through the organisations I've been part of it, of pooling our resources in order to get a better life. And if we can do that on the African continent, as Justin mentioned, our money can go a lot further, especially if we then try to leverage it by using other financial means to make our money work for us, better for ourselves, and as well as using local knowledge. Because whilst we were there, we were introduced to people who are liaison, who have local knowledge, expertise, access to various people within the government, chiefs, and so forth, and so it makes it a little bit easier. So, as Justin mentioned, if you're trying to do this as an individual, it's very difficult, but as a group, we're much stronger.
And what skills? I don't know if you know this, Bevis or Justin. What I know we talked a bit about. Well, I don't know if enough detail about what possible investments they are, but are there any kind of standout skills that Zambia are particularly looking for?
Should I take that one?
Yes, please, Justin.
Okay. No, I wouldn't say standout skills that Zambia is looking for, because the population itself is extremely well educated. It used to be a joke many years ago, but everyone talked about Africans and degrees. They're not. If you look at how the education is, we're actually behind them in terms of skills and education, because they don't have issues with dropouts from schools or whatever. They don't really have that. So education-wise, they're doing very well and they have lots of skills. What they have an issue with is access to cash, which is why pooling our resources actually helps. We have some skills and some things we've learned in the West that we can share, but by and large, they actually have the expertise and the skills, but what they don't have is access to liquid cash, to money that they can buy serious machinery and equipment, and that's really where they're in need. So with us pooling our resources and putting 5 and 10 grand together, and there's 10, 20, 30 of us, we can take that money and buy machinery, buy equipment, and allow them to help us to go to work. So it's understanding mutual needs. Their need is cash, our need is land, and expertise in terms of working land, because most of us in the UK, we've forgotten where most of the stuff we need or use or desire comes from, and most of it comes, well, actually all of it comes straight out of the ground. So we have to learn how to go back to using land and developing land in order to get our skills up. And the best that we can do is bring these strong pound notes that we have, pull them together and go and help. So standout skills, it's not like, oh, we're looking for teachers or we're destitute for this, that, or the other. In Africa as a whole, education is a very serious thing, and it's not something people play with from 5 years old up to 70 years old. I've met a 62-year-old who was just beginning his degree in aeronautics. Why? Because studying is very important.
Yes. Got a text in. Butterfly Sue's tuned in. Thank you. Got a question. Just on the side. Just in what language? What's the main language in Zambia, colonial wise?
Actually, English.
English.
Yeah.
Okay.
Colonial wise, it's English. In the spot that I'm in and the people I'm moving around, the local language is Bemba. So it's either Bemba is what they would most of the Africans speak amongst themselves, but the national language is English.
Okay. Got another question here. It says for Justin, in Africa, should we expect to have to learn Mandarin going forward into the future? That's from Sam.
Yes. You should be learning it in England. You should be learning it in Africa. Yes, because the reality of it is, most of us, if you couldn't speak English, you consider someone illiterate. But the only reason that is because England was the centre of trade. Where do you think the centre of trade is going to be in the next 5 years? Well, it's there now. So a lot of contracts that are being given that used to be given by the English government are now being given by the Chinese government. And speaking Mandarin is an extremely valuable skill. So if you wanted to know, someone else, I think you asked me about the skills that are important. Language and the ability to communicate with different people is a major skill, which, by the way, the Africans here are learning. So, yeah, Mandarin, sometimes we get very upset about the Chinese thing without really understanding. You're only upset about the Chinese because you've forgotten what the Caucasians did to you for the last 400 years. The Chinese are doing very well, yes. We could do better, but the reason they're doing well is because they're industrious, they work hard, and they work together. Anywhere you go in the world, one thing they don't complain about is Chinese workmanship, particularly in construction. So if you want to do better, we need to learn as much as we can and actually work harder than them, which at present we don't. Work more collectively than them, which at present we don't. Work for our interests in developing ourselves as a nation better than they do, and at present we don't. So before we get to any negative feelings towards the Chinese, we've got a lot of work to do. So I would suggest, and I'm trying to pick up little bits, and as soon as we get over the first hurdle of setting this thing up, then I'd love to learn Mandarin, Bemba, Wolof, whatever languages are available, because language is only a medium to communicate. So yes, we should really consider learning Mandarin going forward.
We'll be right back. And welcome back. You are in tune to the search engine with Anthony and Otis. This is Tap Talks meet Search Engine. Currently speaking to Justin and Bevis. Justin from Zambia, Bevis down south. And we're talking about repatriation. We're talking about, initially we've been talking about Zambia. We're talking about opportunities in Zambia, how you can get involved, how you can make a change, how you can, start a better life. Everything takes a little bit of work. Where you are now, you may be feeling a little more comfortable. Why? Because your parents or your grandparents made the way and the struggle and made it easier for you, and you can do the same for yourself and for yours going forward. At least have a look or ask a question. And Justin, Bevis, how can people find out more and get to ask, them questions?
Well, Next Level Development, which I'm a part of now as a member, we will be having a number of presentations across the UK. We've had about three or four in the south of England at this moment in time. We'll be having another presentation on Saturday, the 14th of December, 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock at the University College London, and that'll be a presentation for people to come along and find out more about next level development and the opportunities that occur. We will be carrying out further future presentations, hopefully in Birmingham, maybe in Manchester. I've spoken to one or two people in Manchester about doing a presentation in Manchester, and other places within the UK. So if anybody wants to get in contact with us, they just need to go to our website, which is www.nextleveldevelopment.co. We also have an email address, which is info@nextleveldevelopment.co. You can also find us on Facebook. We're also on Twitter, and Instagram. So you should be able to just put into Google nextleveldevelopments.co and find out any information about our next or current or previous activities.
Oh, excellent. And I don't know, do you do, like people do trips? Do you do trips where
trips.
People can go out and have a look for bird's eye view? Would that be what you actually did, Bevis?
Yes, we do carry out trips for people to research and see what we are doing, and so they can, dip their toe and find out more and be a part of that community and see how people live and exist. I mean, I went for the first time with Justin just this start of November, and it was impressive. You feel like you're at home, just being amongst your people, and you just feel so free and so calm. And then also the weather, it's a massive boon in the way that you feel. And so yes, there will be a number of different trips. Justin, the next major trip will be in May. Is that correct? 2020?
Yeah, May 2020 will be the next research trip we take out. So they can look out for the information on the website. But yeah, we are getting ready for that now. May 2020. I don't think the actual date is released, but it will be in May 2020.
And it's just 2 hours. You're just 2 hours ahead, isn't it?
I am, yes. I had I took an early siesta to make sure I didn't fall asleep. So it started at 11 o'clock for me. So yeah, we're 2 hours ahead because you guys have taken an hour off, but I think it goes to an hour once your clocks go forward again.
And what kind of timescales are flights from UK to Zambia?
You know what, the flights, it seems long. So if you type them in and you have a look, it seems long, like 13 and a half hours. But what actually happens is it's like an 8-hour flight into Africa, Kenya or Ethiopia. And then you wait and take a short hop from one of those over to Zambia. So there isn't really direct flights from the UK to Zambia.
Wow, that don't sound right, does it? 2 hours ahead.
Well, it is a long flight, but I've actually got really used to having done it a few times.
But just saying
Africa,
that on a control basis is because it doesn't kind of like equate. So is that timescale because of the changes that needs to take place? If for instance, going on investment and stuff like that, if Africa or Zambia had its own airline, could that flight time be done quicker?
Yeah, if you flew directly from the UK, it could be done quicker. But it's not if Zambia had its own airline. The black community and what we spend in England, we could charter our own jet. Imagine instead of us all going, no, man, I'm going this place, I'm going that place, and I'm going to get my holiday on, or I'm off to Amsterdam, or to go and do whatever you do in Amsterdam, or I'm off to, I don't know, wherever the hell we go. I used to do this within the Nation of Islam, and we could charter a jet to go to the States or to go to the Caribbean, because if there's a few hundred of you and you pay your money, you can have a private jet pick you up from wherever you want and drop you wherever you want. Because we don't work together, we have to wait for commercial airlines, but commercial airlines are based on a demand of people to go from one place to another. So there's a demand for people to be flying from England to Kenya. That's not actually a lot of black people. When you get on those planes, that's actually people, a lot of Indians and a lot of Caucasians flying between England and Kenya to do business. We're out here waiting for the next dance, waiting for the next, I don't know, comedy show or whatever, but they're actually making those trips. So where you see those journeys are actually commercial lines that people are traveling to do business. Very often it's not us. So we can reduce that time to maybe 8.5 hours if there's enough of us. And I mean, we plan to grow big enough to be able to charter our own jets and go wherever we want to go. So to do flights between Gambia and Zambia is just down to our economic inability to charter a jet to do that journey.
Are you able to touch a bit more on the investments? I came across the video on the website, the animation one, and it referred to...
Yes.
And also, are you aware of someone called Peter Brown from Ledge?
I'm not. Sounds like I should be, though.
So Ledge is an acronym for Land Economic Development Group Economics. So he does something kind of similar to what you do, where his model is he raises funds through the diaspora and agrees deals with people in the motherland, and it's a 50-50 split. And then after 5 years, the split to the diaspora drops down to 20%. So it's a way of building them up economically to be self-sustainable, whilst us in the diaspora profit as well. So he's got a lot of things set up in different countries, mainly based around agriculture and property development. So is your model similar to his model? Do you already have like agreements in place?
I'd say it is. I'd say it's similar. Like I said, I don't think, and we're very aware of it. I'm always very aware of it. That which I'm speaking about, and whenever we talk about next level developments, we're not talking about a new idea that's crafted by any one individual. Marcus Garvey was among us almost 100 years ago and gave us that. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was among us 60, 70 years ago and actually gave us these ideas. So there's nothing there's nothing new under the sun, as they say. So yeah, I'd say it's a similar model. The only difference in what you've just said, because I haven't spoken to the brother to know what his to really go into the minutiae of his model. So in terms of what you just said, I guess in that thing of it's a 50-50 split to help them empower themselves, I think it doesn't actually understand the level of need that the diaspora is in. The Africans on the continent, we see them and go, oh, look, see, they're in rural areas. Look how terrible they're doing. But in rural areas, they own land. We're in the UK driving Benzes and own no land and no means of production. In rural areas in Africa, they can take nuts and make vegetable oil. We don't know how to do that. They can actually make shoes and clothes for themselves and grow their own food. We don't actually know how to do that. So sometimes, because of a misunderstanding, we think we're doing better than we are, whereas if the Caucasian establishment that we live under decided to take from us more than what, to take the little bit that they give away from us, we have nothing to say. Our schooling is a prime example. If they decide not to teach sensible things in the school, you have no power to do anything about that. It's not like that on the continent. So I think sometimes we think we're helping the continent and we don't understand that we actually need as much, if not more, help than the continent.
Yeah, perspective.
So I guess that would be the only bit that I differ on, but pooling our money to work together in partnerships is excellent. Enriching the diaspora to stay in the diaspora under a colonial master makes just as much sense as having a colonial master take the natural resources of Africa.
Yeah, I agree. I'll send you some more information when we come off the call.
That'd be great.
We've been joined by Brother Luke. Good evening.
Good evening.
You're going to have to get a bit closer there.
Good evening. Apologies for my
lateness.
No need, man. I know this is a topic that on many occasions is something close to your heart.
I would definitely say it's close to my heart. And just the conversation that I've caught in so far, sounds very positive. So yeah, definitely a subject that's close to my heart. So looking to get the conversation built up. Yeah.
Yeah, anything? Because I remember a long time ago, we was having a conversation in here, probably even a couple of years, even maybe, and I think you guys were doing a project in Tanzania.
Oh yeah, we're still involved in that.
Yeah, and one of the plans was for you to go out there, Luke. You were the one who was stepping up to take that position to be the scout.
It was more I wouldn't say my position to go out there. I'd love to go out there. I think it was more my idea in terms of seeing Africa as, like the brother just said, as our salvation. So for me, like you said, we've got all these ideas of working in England and this, that, and the other. But really, for me, the answer is in Africa, whether it be business, finances, property development. You know, Africa has all our answers, I believe. So it's just working with people towards seeing that as the end goal, setting up in Africa as the end goal. So yeah.
And with Justin or Bevis, which one travel? Because I know we've been talking a lot on Africa. It's a similar thing that I suppose don't really want to go into just the fears, but I suppose it keeps constantly come up that people have in Africa that the same principle in the Caribbean.
Yes, we have heard of the
doing the same principle in the Caribbean.
Say that again. Was that Justin?
Sorry, go ahead, Curtis.
Who's gonna?
Yes, we have heard of them. Yes, we have heard of a number of people, elderly people, or who've worked in the UK for a number of years, who have been born in the Caribbean and then go back home to the Caribbean and not being treated favourably and or might lose their lives or whatsoever. So there have been those fearmonger stories that have been prevalent within our communities. But a lot of people do go back home to the Caribbean and live quite nicely. Because of even within the Caribbean, there's an eco village called Source Farm, which many people in the conscious community in the UK who have been conscious for a number of decades are not even aware of. So there are many opportunities in a positive way which we're not aware of, but the negative aspects are the things which are prevalent. So propaganda is often working against us, because when you think of the negativity that is taught to us throughout, when you think of Tarzan and you think of when think of the missionaries and so forth, that they're trying to dissuade us from having thinking favourably of African people, having a connection with our African brothers and sisters. And I think one of the most important things is for us to take our children onto the African continent, because when I took my children to the African continent, after visiting many areas of the world, my children were most comfortable in the African continent and were eager to go back to the African continent. And it's our own fears that's actually keeping us away, because we've been indoctrinated into this fear. So we need to break out of that. And the surprising thing is that the conscious community is very well educated in the things that we need to do, but we're not doing it.
Can I ask, Justin, you said when you went over there, you met some people who you explained to them the kind of things that you'd like to do. They liked what they heard, and you were able to get things moving. Did you feel that was on a what's the word that I want to use? Not just on a business level connection, if you get me.
Not just on it. No, it's not it's not. And if it was, it wouldn't be the same level of connection. Sometimes, because we're in this environment, we think it's business and economics and money, but really that belongs to the colonialists. So they went to Africa and chopped it up, looking at it as a business proposition. but black people in our natural state were spiritual people, isn't it? So regardless of what you want to call yourself or where, whatever doctrine we follow, at our core, we are spiritual people who are connected to the creator in the universe. So, it's much bigger than a business connection. And like I said, where it is that, it falls down pretty quickly. And all you have to do is look at names on the balance sheet and who's got what shares over what shares. And all of a sudden, things fall to bits. But when there's a spiritual connection, we're answering each other's needs. We're actually in the business of serving each other to help each other go forward. So as I'm having that conversation, it's not a proud and boastful conversation of, look, we'll bring this money, so you'll have to do that. I'm saying, look, all we've got is these pounds. But we need land and we need expertise and we need family. This is what they did to us. They took us away. They miseducated us and they're mistreating us to this very day. We need to come home and we need help. So yes, I've got money, but I need help. And they would, and likewise, go, look, we've got land. We have resources. We sat, myself and Bevis, just less than a week ago, we sat with a chief, and this is a chief who has thousands upon thousands upon thousands of acres of land in his care. And he said, look, they got me out here suffering. I'm sitting on natural resources, but we're out here suffering because they want to come with big companies, take all of the money and leave us in the dirt with nothing. So it's a spiritual thing in as much as you have to be free enough to tell the truth to your family. And we're so busy faking it. We're so busy trying to pretend we're these business moguls that we're not. And we're so busy trying to pretend we're, I'm okay. It's really these poor other black folks we need to save. That's what's causing the issue. Because when you're in a spiritual space, you don't need to be faking it. You don't need to be proud. Your ego doesn't need to lead. And when you put that aside, you can find brother and sister and brother can get together. But when you go with, the pride or the ego of your former slave masters and their children, stuff doesn't work. And I found that what's made us so successful is, and I hope Bevis will be a witness, but I think what's made us so successful is the openness and the honesty that we deal with each other and the people that we're working with on the continent with.
Mm-hmm. So a couple of years ago, I can't remember her name or how to pronounce it, but the black woman who's recently been fired from the African Union?
Yes, Dr.
Yes.
Yeah.
I went to meet her in Washington this year.
Yeah. So
I can't remember her name either, but I might Google it.
But so I saw a video with her a couple of years ago, and she was talking about land in Zambia and Zimbabwe, and a project called Wakanda Village, and it was acres and acres of land that was set aside for the African Diaspora. So is that related to the land that you have been allocated, yes, or is that a separate plot of land?
No, it isn't. And actually, when I went to Washington to see that sister, she wasn't there. So they had a symposium that she was due to speak at, but she was unable to attend. She got called away somewhere else. But it was still a good event, and we met the ambassadors from a number of African countries to the USA. But no, it wasn't. And I've yet to find a lot of these schemes actually making their way or trickling down. Mm-hmm. I've seen them and I've seen the YouTube videos, but we're not seeing where that actually, here you are, Mr. Diaspora, here you come. And I think because we've not organized ourselves like we're trying to do now, whether it's through next level developments or the project like the one you spoke of earlier, we're having to organize ourselves to go there. But I'll tell you one thing, 1,000 acres of land is nothing to an African.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about land being put aside, there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of acres of land available to not via these governmental schemes, to anyone or anybody who'll get up and actually pull their resources and go offer something.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. I think it's a case of us just needing to be more organised as a collective and coming there as a nation state from the diaspora as one. So are you aware of a organisation called BAIO Afrikstan? So that stands for Black African Infrastructure Organisation. So they're trying to group a collective of us from the African diaspora and to create our own land infrastructure and nationhood. So I can send you some more information about it.
Yeah, I think, again, at some point, we're really going to all have to bring our different organizations together to actually make an organization So, I mean, we're doing what we're doing, but directly it's based on us coming together. So anything that brings those of us with a like mind together to keep doing this work is sensible. I mean, I've met people since we've been doing this who had projects and ideas in Botswana or in Gambia. In fact, some of our members are actually landowners in Gambia, and Brother Bevis has interests and ideas going forward for Gambia. Yeah. So it's not to be, we're not going to be fighting new tribal wars. Yeah. We actually want to bring Africa together. So if we build a pilot project, and what we're doing in Zambia is only a pilot project that we can then share with others, and none of what we're doing is a secret, that we don't want to share the method, but it's the whole idea is we need to take Africa country by country and tie it together.
Well, I actually shared your website in the group because I'm a part of that organisation, and someone should be reaching out to you hopefully soon. But a large group of the organisation are currently in Rwanda, trying to set things up over there as well. So maybe when they get back, we can connect you.
Yeah, Rwanda's a wonderful place right now. It's a wonderful place to start. So do you see, it's like what we're doing, we're only a small section, we're only a small group, but we're all going in different ways with the same mindset to help ourselves, but also to help the family on the continent and to work together.
Exactly.
Well, then we're all on the same program, so there's no reason for us to start, either making new organizations that then compete with each other, or then having, I'm in Zambia, you're in Rwanda, Zambia is better than Rwanda.
Well, the plan was to even also, although we'll have our own nation state, but it's also to have satellite communities all over the world, so we're not necessarily dislocated in one spot. So what you're doing in Zambia and what everyone else is doing, if we all come together, it can all be synced and come under one umbrella, and we're all working towards the same goals.
Yeah, and it's actually about learning how to respect each other's differences, but always stay together.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's one of the things. This is why I said it's not an economic issue. Our issue isn't economic because Africa's richer than the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Our problem is educational. Our problem is spiritual. Our problem is moral, because you don't mind disrespecting your brother for a few pounds, which is why anywhere I go and I hear economics, before I hear moral development, or before I hear spiritual development, or before I hear unity, then I'm like, okay, I can't work there. Because if it's about money, they'll sell you out for rice. We've had that.
Yeah.
You know when you, because for me, this conversation, it comes up all the time. And like you've mentioned, there's people all over the world. When I say people, like-minded African brothers and sisters really trying to do positive things, and the amount of groups that you see on Facebook or just throughout the diaspora, there are people actively doing this thing, and the problem is that we're all doing it sometimes in secret, or we're just not linking up and being organized. So when you look at other communities that have got it, they've got a religion, or they've got something that ties and binds them together, an ideology. And I think that's also something that we lack. So, some people are religious. Some of the community that we're talking about, they still believe in Jesus, or they still believe in Allah, and that's fine. And all these finite differences is what causes us not to come together. So I talk about...
Can I jump in? Sorry, brother. Can I just interrupt you for a second? Like what you're saying, it's not like an ideology is another thing. It's the first thing.
Yeah. Well,
if you don't have... Sorry, go ahead.
No, this is you sort of reaffirming what I'm saying. I think one of the issues one of the main issues is this ideology that we've got to come together to. Like, we've all got our own lanes, but the one end goal is what we're fighting for. So, sometimes you do have to change your lane for us all to come together, if that makes sense. So I know for a period of my time, I was like, right, I'm only doing this. This is what I'm on. And then I realised there's other avenues that I have to go down for me to get back to where I need to be. And when I'm talking about as a collective now, I think this lack of culture or an ideology that identifies us as an African nation moving forward is one of the also things that I think hold us back. And I don't know if you can shed some light on that, or if you agree
definitely.
Or not,
and I really just let me give it to you like this then. See, when you said it, some people believe in Jesus and some people believe in Allah. It's when you get to the spot, when you start understanding, it's the principles of these things they actually already make us one. Somebody taught us that they were different. I've sat with Sikhs and Hindus and Buddhists and whatever. And when you sit with different people from different religions or whatever and ask about the real principles or the real tenets of what they do, living good amongst people is actually a universal tenet. It's been taught all over the world. It has different labels and whatever, just like you get baked beans with a lot of different labels on the front. Inside, my friend, it's always the same beans and tomato sauce, don't it?
Yeah.
And we'll be
So
right
what
back.
happens is we're looking at the label and we're not understanding that inside it's all the same stuff. So you're being asked to, or you're being herded in a way that makes you turn away from he's a Pan-Africanist, or he's a Muslim, or he's Nation of Islam, or he's he's a nationalist or something. But when at the end of the day, all of that brought together if it's brought together or it's used for the service of our people, makes sense. I'm not I don't actually. I'd rather call our people black people as a universal understanding, because that's what I was taught from the Honourable Elijah Muhammad and from Minister Farrakhan, that black was universal. But I don't have a problem with people calling their groups African groups if that's what's helping you to get up and get yourselves together. What happens is we then start attacking each other over the black and the African question. It's madness. Or, he's a Rasta. We really have to stop. Let's leave all that. Let's put a pin in all that. And we'll have a conversation with that when we actually start. We can produce our own goods, services, manage our own resources, and teach our own children a doctrine that actually allows them to come up, never seeing themselves as inferior, but as nation and world builders. Let's do that first, and then we can niggle about these other things. So to have an ideology for all of us to work together, which is why I'm saying which is why we've called it next level developments, is we've got to get above this whole tribalism, because that's what it is. It's tribalism. It's tribalism on the continent that won't let them get together. It's tribalism in the conscious community in the UK or in America that won't let us get together. We've got to be done with tribalism, and the ideology has got to be, as you said, that we come together as a nation.
And we'll be right back.
When somebody's taken charge of all of the facets of your life and then puts you in a little box and you have to work your way out of that. So no, I think that's an exact way to say that. It's a perfect way.
And let me put something else, because you said before about you went there, you met these people. Yeah, there is certain countries. Otis mentioned the minister for that was stepped down from her job for the she got her job got taken away or pulled away. She said she knew.
Speaking the truth.
She said she knew it was going to happen about 6 months before, didn't she? Do you know what I mean? But we can see why she said that. I personally, she'd be an absolute for me a great first president of United Africa. But saying that, there's a lot of the African countries, as he said, Ghana, Gambia, and others that have publicly. I mean, I don't know if it's come directly out of the president's mouth, but have made it known that they want people from the diaspora to come back. Do you think that is being said loud enough, or coming collectively enough from certain countries?
No. Is it being said loud enough? No, but I think the problem is, you know what? I think it's us. I actually think the problem is the diaspora, because we've been trained to sit down and wait to be spoon-fed.
Okay.
And the Africans are not like that. So even my first trip to Ghana, in I think it was 2001 or 2002, the first thing that people kept saying to me is, why don't more of you come home? They couldn't understand, why would we not get up and just go home? Like, they're not keeping you, they're not tying you there. You make money in England, why don't you just get up and come home? But the reason being, we're waiting to be spoon-fed all the time. So if they gave us council houses, which is why so many people are like, oh, they're giving us land. My friend, the land is not that expensive for you to go over there and buy an acre. And if you were buying in 2001, you could have built maybe 3 or 4 houses on an acre or 2 of land for less than £20,000. In Ghana, you can't do that now.
Justin, just
in a car, no less.
Just to sort of again reaffirm what you were saying. I don't know if you remember when Kanye West made his slavery statement, and there was like uproar. about slavery being a choice. This is what I think the diaspora. It's like we choose to live here for convenience, or for all the things that tie us in to staying in a place that we know isn't set up or designed for us, whether it be England or America. So it's our choices. Not only that, just to again go take the point a bit further, it's what we have access to. So saying that voice from Africa isn't loud enough, I would disagree. I would say it's always been a prevalent voice, but our ears haven't been open to it. When I say our ears, I mean this side hasn't been open to it. So I say many times I'm fortunate that I was raised as a Rastafarian. I mean, I've stepped away from it now, but I was fortunate enough to always have Africa in my house growing up, and positive images about Africa. So I feel fortunate for that. But a lot of people haven't necessarily had that.
And your mum lives there.
And my mum lives there as well. But the point I was trying to say is when you approach an African who doesn't identify as an African, he sometimes or she gets offended for the mere fact that you've even tried to call them an African. They don't identify with being African. They're Jamaican before that, they're Christian, they're all the different denominations of what they potentially think they are before being African. And I think again this is one of the issues, not a major issue, but it's again one of the cruxes to why that voice isn't being heard and why that voice hasn't been listened to. Again, that's just a personal opinion that I sort of see.
I like that as a point. I think, okay, I will retract in terms of where you said you disagree. I get that in terms of our ears not being open. And then again, it's about just the way those things are put forward, because it's not to have that. It's like I was saying before, whatever we do, the ideology has to be, does it serve us as a people? And I think sometimes it's not whether we all see ourselves as African or not. It's that we're not really set. We're talking more about the ideology than making the ideology serve the individuals. So in that regard, where people understand and identify as African, that's great. We can get together. But it's difficult because there are some who may study and actually get the understanding that when you're saying African, you're actually naming the continent after a European white man. That's is it Sepulchre Africanus? So others, like some of the family, will then take the name Alkebulan because that's one of our original names, or Nubia because it's an original name. But what it is, I'm just saying we need to actually get to that bit where we go, okay, so you don't identify, no problem, let's move on, let's get to the next thing.
I was just using Africa as the general colloquial term of that landmass that we know today. So again, the same argument that came.
And I use it in the same way.
Same way when we use the word black. Some certain circles, I won't use that word for whatever reason.
Yes.
So, you know what I'm saying? It's depending on the circle. But for the listeners and the laymen's, if you like, I myself is a layman, so I'm not going to say that, But just for that purpose itself. So during the break, me and Brother Otis were speaking about that. You look at Europe, and you've got all the different countries in Europe, France, Spain. Each of them are like a Spanish man. You speak to a Spanish man, he's very, he's all about Spain and all the delicacies that Spain has to offer, but he will identify as a European. So as a collective, they're still European. Do you get what I'm saying? And he will benefit from all that the European Union or whatever the governance body will have to offer.
Before that, he's not saying it outwardly.
No, he doesn't have to.
They all identify as white people. When they went to Africa and carved it up, how they carved it up, they went as European white people because they weren't interested in any of the black people who was in Europe. Let's carve up some of these for them. No. It was for European white men to carve up the resources of Africa, and they went as a group hundreds of years ago without even a thought. But for us, we're still looking at those differences when really there are no differences. And it's why when we're saying, or if we use the term black, we're talking about a universal term because we're everywhere. We are the source of all life. That's why we're black people. Because it's like when you look in the universe and you look up at the sky, you see the darkness of space, you see the blackness of space. It's the source of everything. So when you're looking at these people, it's not the tone color of your skin, where most of us have had some kind of brutal relationship with Caucasians that's light and dark skin. I'm in Africa now. At home, I'm kind of dark skinned. Here, I'm literally, you could call me mixed race.
But saying that,
You understand? So, like,
hello.
yeah, carry on. Sorry, I stopped
Okay.
to let you speak.
Yeah, just in the point that you were making about, sometimes we want to wait for Africa to call, and it's not like that. Maybe there does need to be. This is where the kind of like learning and understanding needs to come out. I mean, when Britain wanted us, they did the shout out, even though they didn't. They knew exactly what they wanted us for. Do you know what I mean? And it was pure just about the physical labor. We asked you about before about, does Africa want more than just the investment or whatever? You says yes, but wouldn't it?
Yes,
don't you think
definitely.
it would be great for them to actually put out that call?
That's why you
Sorry, by the way,
Did you know like they did
can I
here?
just
We
answer
want
that
you.
question?
How they went out? How people went and
Yes, yeah, I'm going to deal with that. I just wanted to thank you, really, because the question in the conversation, this is some tough questioning. I like it. It's like we're having really good reasoning here, which sometimes I'm out here and the team has left, so actually there's only one or two of us left. So this is really exciting for me in the middle of the night. However, the reason is, you see, when they did the call, they did that call to call... the English did that call to call who they saw as foreign subjects. When Africa makes that call, it's making that call to their colonial masters or to the Chinese, because we need your money, you have something. In terms of us, we're Africa's children. So by rights, it's like they're not going to come out and call us unless we've demonstrated we have something worthy of calling. And thus far, most of us haven't. Like, most of us have not. I think... do you know, I can't remember who it was, but one of us earlier was saying, when I said I said the call was not being made loud enough, and one of you guys disagreed, and I then had to retract what I'm saying to agree with him. It's us. Our ears are not open. We're not studying. We're not learning. We're not fighting to build ourselves up and be of use to Africa. As Marcus Garvey said, some of us are no use in the West and will be no use in Africa.
No,
So they're not calling useless black people, and what's being put forward of us all over the world. When you watch Top Boy and these other things, do you think anyone in Africa is calling for that?
It's the same. Like I said, it was me that sort of made that remark about us, our ears not being open, and I genuinely believe that in the sense of when I was growing up as a young Rasta, the whole idea was to head back to Africa. That was what I was told was going to happen when I was like, I'm talking like 6, 7, 8
Yes.
now. So it was only until I got into like my teenage years and I'm starting to question my mum and question some of the other Rasta elders. Like, we've got this massive building here, which we call the HQ. There's one in London and in Manchester. There's worldwide ones. They got some in New York, Jamaica, all over the world. But my point is, 2 major buildings in England just sat there not doing anything. In my eyes, not doing anything, or the potential that they could be doing is just lacking. But the end goal of moving to Africa, people were doing it in dribs and drabs. So like I said, my mum's gone there, a few other Rasta elders have gone there. But the whole idea behind it was for us to gain the skills here to then take them there to build Africa up. That was drilled into our head as youngsters. So I was disillusioned when I didn't see that happening. And I think what you were saying before, that's what it is. So it's not about recreating a wheel. It's taking almost elements of the system, of this European system, and bringing it back there in a new, not even in a new, but just in our way of dealing with it. So just spiritualize the whole thing and take that greed element out of it. If that makes sense. So because we lack,
Perfect.
because we haven't got the necessary skills. Like, I work in a hotel now. Do you get what I mean? Like, there's so many skills that are irrelevant that we do day to day here. That Africa doesn't even need that.
Don't talk it down, no. You're
No, I'm not-
training to be a counselor.
No. I'm training to be a
Anyways,
counsellor, but I'm talking in my day to day. What keeps food
That's
on my
not food, but
table?
they need hotels. There's hotels over there for you
No,
working
no,
in.
No,
I'm
no,
not-
hold on
I'm
one
not-
second.
I'm not
Sorry,
taking
Dominic
away-
was talking before. What's your name? The one who just with the rest that was disillusioned.
I'm
What's
Luke.
your name?
I'm Luke. Luke.
Luke. Okay. Luke, just to help me with something, if you don't mind, how old are you?
I'm 35. I'll be 36 in May.
Okay. Do you see what you've just said? It's you're saying you're disillusioned, but that disillusionment is our future. Because what I'm realizing is when it comes to older heads, we got comfortable, and I'm kind of like I'm saying older. I don't just mean in numbers. I mean in mindset. But when it comes to older heads, we got comfortable. We got a little building. We sat in the building. We keep doing that, but we were given. Marcus gave us something to do, and we ain't done it. But we got comfortable in the little bit that we did and didn't pass the baton. But when the baton gets passed over to someone like yourself, I'm, a few years older than you, but not much. When the baton gets passed over to those of us who've read it and decided, we actually want to live what Marcus told us. I want to live how Elijah Muhammad told us. I want to actually touch it. That's where in the youth is the future. And what we're struggling in the West is we're not passing over to the youth. We're just telling them what to do, but we're not giving them the tools to actually build what we've asked for. So across all of those different organizations is disillusionment. But the disillusionment is to get back to the original principles that all of us was taught, that at some point we're supposed to have something for ourselves.
Got a couple of
So I
texts.
think our focus now has to be with younger people and actually empowering them, not to hold up, old leaders for the sake of ego, but to actually get to the part where we build what we came to build, and then let not ego, but our pride in our achievements be we feed, clothe, and shelter, we educate and disseminate information amongst our own people, and now we can be proud of that. But to be proud of, as you said, buildings that we may have, because we've all got, many of our organizations have different buildings, but to be proud of buildings and you're not building people and futures makes no sense.
Got a text
Yes,
here.
it's the illusion of inclusion. I mean, we've been doing the same things for many years, which is insanity. And our children have been watching and becoming disillusioned at the same time. I firmly believe in the principles, African principles of Kwanzaa, which is the modern diasporan form of African art festivals and other observances. So we have to modernize the way that we think and making it relevant to our children. And then if we do that, they will then become empowered and lead us forward. As we've talked about earlier on, Justin, we noted that the chiefs, some of the chiefs that we met were under 50. We have people in our communities over here who are in the 70s, 80s will not relinquish and pass the baton on. So we need to kind of like separate from them, or empower our youngsters to actually take over leadership and enable them to look towards Africa. That's my aim.
Okay, got a text here, more of a statement really. We blacks in the diaspora, we need to reaffirm our Africanness. We are culturally and spiritually lost. We are still in the wilderness. That's from 863. Got any comments on that?
No, we're preaching to the choir. Yes,
Okay.
very true.
Here we go again, from Sam. It says, for Justin, what's your background? Just curious.
Was that it?
Hold on. It says, just curious, if you had to stay in the UK, how would you earn your living?
Okay. Construction.
Okay. That answers your question there, 855. I don't know if you had...
They asked what would I do if I had to stay on the plantation? My particular brand of cotton would be construction.
Construction.
That's what I see. My particular brand at the moment of cotton, I like that thing, is working in the hotels. And a lot of us haven't got any other avenues. And that's where we struggle sometimes to make that escape, I believe. Because I'm trying to make that escape where I'm not dependent on the plantation for my food. And at this current state, I am. A lot of us are quite fortunate to Brother Otis here, or just other people, got that entrepreneur mindset where they're just, you know, taking themselves out of the matrix and figuring out ways to be free. I was speaking to another friend of mine who's European descendancy, so shall we say, and his dad also done construction, funnily enough, and he was he had a different gripe with his dad than I've got with mine. He was saying his dad was trying to force him into his family, into the business, and he didn't want to do that. He just wanted to, he wanted to find his own job and do whatever. And I was like, you don't know how lucky you are. I was trying to say, or fortunate, that you've got a potential business there that you can just step into, a family business. And this is how they've created wealth over the years, by giving their children just a choice or an opportunity not to have to go on the plantation because they have something set up already that may have been passed down by his granddad and his dad before. Do you know what I mean? So again, these are things that we need to think about in terms of like, is it Brother Bevis, is it? Who's talking about the children, because Kwanzaa is another one that's close to my heart because of the principles that it's got in there, that can lead a nation, those principles. So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
And we're right back.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Even like I said to you guys at the beginning, we've just like secured somewhere in the region of about 3,000 acres of land, and that is small. Like that is not even considered land here.
Wow. And that's agricultural land, yeah?
It's mixed use. It's residential. It's actually just over 3,000 acres, but it's mixed use. It's agricultural. It's mining. It's residential. So we've got mixed different things for different purposes, but it is quite a large tract, and we're going to spend the next 24 months just developing that pilot scheme. So we have something that we've worked out the kinks of, and hopefully can then share a working system with others to go, okay, this is how we actually get from arriving here to actually taking charge of business and building.
And the purpose in the sense of because obviously the country itself, yeah, they want to come back, they want to obviously fulfill the opportunities there, but they're not wanting people to just come there to mine, do the resources, and then go back to whether that's England, the States, or whether.
Well, that's what they have now. At this particular point, Indians will come in, mine, take whatever they take, and leave. Part of if they bring in $250,000 of cash to start a business, they're allowed to take their funds out cash tax free for the first 5 years.
Wow. Because
they're desperate to have people come in and do business, and £250,000 will allow someone to come in as an investor. And I don't actually have the £250,000 to roll in. But thanks to Bevis and the other founders of Next Level Development. Oh, just by the way, I've actually been joined. My architect who's in Zambia with me is behind me. Brother Raymond, who's one of the founders, is actually in the room with me, so he's listening in too. But we've actually been able to now put 250,000 together, or we haven't done it yet, but we can with the numbers that we have, to actually start becoming investors ourselves and developing and growing. Right now, people from all over the world are doing exactly that. They're going to Africa, taking what they can and leaving, and Africa is happy because at least they get the crumbs. But if we won't go back and help, this is what they're left to do.
Justin, I just wanted to ask you about so my mum's been living in Ethiopia for the last maybe 10 years on and off through the Rasta thing. So what I wanted to ask, because I know certain times the Wi-Fi will be down, and it might not be up for weeks, and electric issues and certain issues that we take for granted on this side. But then deeper than that, yes, the governance of these places. So I know a lot of the or it's considered that a lot of the African leaders or people in position are corrupt and work for the government and work for the man in which. Can you shed any light on that and how that can be maybe addressed? Because it might be someone's got that 250,000, and who do you give it to? Who do you, is it a matter of giving it to a chief, or is it government official? You know what I'm saying? How can we?
Yeah, it's okay. It's similar to the question before. in as much as you get the kind of leadership you deserve. In terms of the structure and how it works, the chiefs all over Africa are custodians of the land. That's an African system that was going on when white people first encountered them. That's how that system was there. They were always the custodians of the land and the servants of the people, in as much as I know how it's put forward, like, oh, I'm the chief, he bows to me, but the reason being is he's the one responsible for making sure everybody's taken care of. That's an old African tradition. However, as the governments have come in and there's modernization has come in, or I guess you call it democracy, I'm doing the quote marks with my fingers now, there's a mixture between, I guess, municipal government, local government, which will be the chiefs, and they are learning how to work together. But again, it's a work in progress. So the chief you can go and see the chiefs and actually have land allocated or purchase land or whatever. And once that's done, that's registered at the government house. So we have a certain amount actually allocated for us, and then you go off to the Ministry of Lands and Mining and have that registered in your name, and you receive title for that. So a lot of Africa is growing from, I guess, rudimentary practices that were open to abuse, and they're developing. But everything, even next level developments, we're developing all the time. We're actually, and it was really good being here, and like as a person who dealt with site management in London, and having architects and engineers and electricians on the team, is we're suffering from the same stuff. Like, before this happened, the power went out for 2 hours and miraculously came on just in time for me to do this with you. But there are ways around that, in as much as we imported generators in.
Yeah.
We've also looked at inverters and battery packs. There's problems everywhere. There were problems in London when they first started building that city, when the Romans started building that city, but they worked it out. We can't have these dusty roads. Our carts won't go up them. So then they started paving it with stone. Then they started looking, if you go further down in the Victorian days, they had sewage running in the street. So then they thought, we need to build an underground sewage system. So whenever problems arise, it's the job of industrious men and women to actually solve those things and develop your nation. And that's what we have to do. We're getting used to the thing of, Wi-Fi is gone. Okay, somebody made Wi-Fi. Somebody built the internet. Build something, make something, solve the problems. And that's what we're here doing as part of our pilot project, is we can't live without good water pressure. So I'm not just going to move into a place and have a hose pipe fall on my head. I'm going to build what I need.
I more meant the chiefs is one thing, but I meant more like the government officials, the ones that we see on news who talk for the whole of Zambia. That them type of people.
Okay, do you know something, brother? I can't speak to that, because when I came here, and some of the people I met are former freedom fighters, and they're up in their 90s and whatever. They were part of those who went to actually defeat the colonial government. The instructions I was given by them was, don't go there, work with the poor people and start on the ground. Okay. And when you've built something, talk to government. Don't talk to government until you've built something, because when they went for freedom, those were the last people to come. And sometimes, because we get starry-eyed, we start there. But revolution starts with the young and the poor. It doesn't actually start with the old and the rich. They have too much to hang on to. So I'm not dealing with them, apart from to have our things registered where, like anybody would, when you go to the government to have them stamp stuff. I'm not literally standing outside of government houses picketing, or even trying to make secret friends.
It's that what I mean, because without going into too much detail, I know my mum has issue with even traveling in and out of the country, and certain how their visas set up and stuff like that. So these are the things that I was more sort of touching on. So if the visa, if they don't accept on a visa basis to actually get into the country or in there for long enough to be able to do some of the work we need to do, it's these things.
Okay.
I'm talking about on that level, even, because I know some of the.
Okay, let me help. Okay, so this is something that we dealt with, but we're constantly dealing with. But generally, it's being answered within next level developments, because the team is growing and different people have different skills. So that be the case, there are people within the team that can sort out our visas. There are people within the team that can sort out getting stuff done, but it's our team that does that. Because if you, this is why I said at the beginning, coming to Africa by yourself, and my mum lives in Ghana, pretty much the same as your mum. She comes and goes, and I originally planned to be in Ghana, and I was the one who took my mum there in the first instance. But just looking at how stuff went, that plan sort of eluded me. But it's going by yourself. It's difficult, and you come across that. But imagine if you build a strong collective of Ethiopians and people from the diaspora working together, then you'll find that's not an issue. And I actually saw that in action when I saw the Chinese people at the immigration office. They were working together. So one person gets in and he goes through what he goes through. They actually had a thing where you could put 250,000 as an investor and you get all your documents. You've got 250,000, you get your documents. But guess what happens? He leaves there, then he takes his 250,000 and he gives that to somebody else, and then they come with their family. So there are ways and means of doing it legally. When you work together, it's easier to do. The reason that we're struggling is we're going independently. I'm sorry to use this for a reference, but I don't know if you know that film Gladiator with Russell Crowe, when he says, if we fight together, we'll survive. If we don't, and we peel off and try go 1-1, we're all dead today. From my vantage point, that's the model I'm using, and it's been working really well thus far to actually make sure your team is very strong in order to do these things. But 1-1, hoping the system will do it. Generally, it doesn't work for individuals, it works for groups.
Is it a case of dual citizenship over there, or is it just long extended visas? How long do you have to stay there before you can apply for citizenship?
I wouldn't even say, it's horses for courses, and as long as you get to stay and do the work, it may be employment visas, it may be extended visas, it may be, spousal visas, it may be investment visas. It's a bit like we were saying before with the different labels or organizations. Whatever works to get the job done.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I wanted to ask earlier when you were talking about the power.
We've got to get so serious about getting the job done, we don't care. We just get the job done. Yeah. And when I saw the Turkish and the Chinese in the place there, they were just getting the job done. They weren't concerning whether they, when I went there, they didn't handle me and, stamp my visa straight away. If they sent them back with a fee in there, they just went home and came back with another idea.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask earlier when you were talking about the power, is solar big over there, solar power?
Yeah, it is. But recently, I've actually been looking into this, and solar's good, yes. The cost of solar, what people don't realize is the cost of solar is actually more expensive than grid power. It's actually more expensive than having batteries and inverters. So from our vantage point, I wasn't rushing to solar just because it's become a new fad. You actually have to make sure it makes sense financially. And for us in the early stages, it doesn't. Maybe the cost of solar panels will come down.
I think,
but at this point, it's not. It isn't actually the most frugal investment in constant power.
With the solar, I think it's a case of you have to have the power packs with it. So I'm not sure if you're aware of Tesla's mega packs. So the deal that they've done with Australia, where I think it was 2 years ago, they said if they didn't do it within a certain time frame, that they'd give it them for free. And since then, I think they've saved around, they've earned back the money after 3 years of what they invested, and then the power's free. So I think that's something that we need to be looking at.
And so I get it. And to me, it's like these are ongoing things that we have to look at. But in terms of development costs for right now, we don't. I think it would be counterproductive for us to. A lot of time we do solar because it's actually pushed forward, or even eco building. Like we really need to use these types of bricks because they're whatever. But our first thing is from where we are. If you look at our realistic position is we've just got to get up and get something for ourselves. So if that works financially for a group, then great. But we've got to be mindful about. I would rather have battery packs actually powered by inverters. Inverters are where you take the electricity from the grid and it is stored in batteries. So when the grid goes down, you use the battery power. When the grid comes back up, it charges your batteries. Or even petrol generators or whatever. I'd rather have that and a school than shiny solar panels, and that's all I could afford.
Going to the text here, Justin. It says, Justin, I know you're busy, but it might be good to do some short YouTube videos to document your journey. It could be quite instructive for many of us. And that's from Sam. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Yes, I should, but I hate YouTube videos and I don't like staring at the camera. I feel self-conscious.
Yeah, well,
It's for a good cause.
That's like that calling.
But he's right, and I've got people like Bevis with me at the moment who help tremendously with that. So I don't know. Maybe he should direct that question to Bevis.
Yes, we do have a YouTube channel, but we have some videos on our Facebook and Instagram. So look out in the future. We'll be putting a lot more informational videos out.
Okay. Can I just ask, what's been your? You said you were out there. Was it in May, Justin? I mean,
in Zambia.
Yeah.
November.
Yeah.
November.
Yeah, I was there in May. Yes, I was here in May, and I'm here again now. I'll be here in December.
So, in the sense of your projects, where are you at in the sense of your initial projects? I know you said about water and things like that. Was that part of some of the steps? Where are you at to, I don't know, did you have a business plan?
Yes, it's ever changing. At the moment, we're working on a restaurant office complex and serviced offices. It's kind of like a central Lusaka development where this is why Raymond's here with us. He's actually helping us get the drawings up and ready. So that's like our main project over the next 3 months. We've got some side businesses that need to be developed. So where we are at is that we've pulled our resources, we've sent some stuff and some equipment over, and I'm now staying here for a little bit to actually get this up and running. So restaurant office complex, it's only a few offices, maybe 5 or 6 offices, and some service departments. I think it's 6 or 7 service departments. On top of that, there's a sort of tour business which has really grown out of just bringing people over to show them what we're doing as next level developments. So we sent a minibus over, and we're using that to build sort of like a tour company. We've also got a workshop, a mechanics workshop and recovery business that we're putting together. I'm saying this because there's a few of us. It's not me by myself, but we're doing mechanics and recovery business, and we've also got a construction company that we send tools and stuff out for. So we'll be setting up our own construction company out here. So that's where I'm at for now. And that, with the other pieces of land in the main residential development that we'd like to build for our founders and our members, is where we are for probably the next 2 years. So we'll just be talking about this and developing this over the next 24 months.
Do you work with Bowler by any chance?
Who?
Bowler from London is Dina Kai's friend. I know he's heavily involved in
Dino
construction.
Kai's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
So, no, but like I said, Dino Kai's a good friend of mine, so we talk.
Okay.
But I think where we are with this project, and even people like Dean, it's like we always share information. And if you know Dino Kai, he's always working on new programs for the improvement of us as a community. So we always share information, and we have each other's personal selves. So, we always touch base, and I help him with whatever I can help him with, and he does the same for me. So it's more a case of, on this one, we're sort of doing it, and he's working on his stuff. But we always know whatever we do is a collective. So no in its day-to-day level, but there are particular individuals, most of the individuals who are members of the conscious community, we all have each other's telephone numbers that we share. Yeah. It's actually a lot more progressive than you'd imagine. Sometimes you think it's quite negative, but the reality of it is we are really all the family that we have. And even with Brother Bevis, I've known of him and his work for many years before we actually got together to do this, because we all work in the same space. And you guys will know when you listen to me, and I know when I listen to you, we've had much of the same experiences because we're doing very similar work.
Definitely. Yeah, we invited Dean up last year when we held the Black Achievers Dinner Dance, and Dean was one of our guest speakers. So yeah, I've been in touch with Dean since.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, got another text here. One that says, Anthony, Tap Team, Bevis and Justin, Fab's show, and thanks. And that's from Sam. Got another one that says 680 says, Good evening, my brothers. Just loving the ideas and strong Nubian mindset. Continue with the Most High's blessings. Thank you for that. 608. We've literally got 5 minutes before we've got to go. Just what you said there before, Justin, about your steps and a lot of the things that you're already doing over there was quite, amazing. But like you said, like I said before as well, and I know we're kind of conflicted on this about people not moving enough or needing to be shaken up. I mean, it may be because of my background and the work that I do social work, so I'm probably always there trying to give people more, I don't know, choice, aspiration, shaking, whatever like that. But in what you were saying about where you're at, do you do you just encourage people to come with what they want to do, or do you say, look, we're doing something now, you can get a piece of this, there's these kind of like package for business here? Is there those kind of options that people can learn from Next Level?
I try not to. I try not to direct to tell people what they need to do. We just give options. So if people want to actually get involved with us, there's a procedure for that, and Bevis can go through that. There's a procedure for that, for actually getting involved with us. We are looking for a second round of funding to develop the projects that we're on. We have a particular system in a way that we go about getting that. And once people join, then they're part of that company that administers and manages what we're doing. So we work together as a team on what we're doing. And obviously Raymond, who's with me, and Bevis is on the other side, we're all members of that team. But then having said that, there are other people who may not want to do that, and they may want to do something for themselves or whatever. If that's the case, it's not like I wouldn't stop anyone if that's what you wanted to do, and we'd help if we could. Or you wanted to put together a project in a different country, then we'd help with whatever we could. So the job is not necessarily to force anyone down a certain road, because that's fraught with problems anyway. We're trying to lead the UK for freedom, so I'm not trying to make anyone a prisoner of Next Level developments. So I'd say whatever people wanted to do, they should think about it, do their study, do their research, and make their decisions in the best interest of themselves, their families, and us as a community.
Justin, I like that answer, because when I remember when we first started as TAP, and people asking, what is it about and how can I join? I was saying, or the analogy I gave was that it was skill based. So the analogy I used was the house. So people on the top floor, very top floor of the house, and it's all there because of skill benefit. So if you're able to do what's required for us to get to where we need to be, you're at the top of the house, and then anything from the top is delegated down. So I said the main level of the floor would be like the ground floor. That's where most people are, but they may not be skilled, but they're the minds that are there prepared to do the work. Do you get what I'm saying? From the guidance of the people upstairs. So it's just a really good analogy of just it being skill based as well. So no one's the leader.
And let me give you something else then. Speaking as someone who actually works in that industry, think of it like this. There are foundations, there's walls, there's a plumbing system, there's an electrical system, there's structural walls, there's a roof, there's tiles, there's wooden beams that make floors. They all have to work together. And if you take out a component, a house ain't not a very good building.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
so we're all valuable. And I think sometimes we revel in the value of one part, don't realize, and lose another, when us as a people together are extremely valuable. So we need to start recognizing that and working together as a whole, regardless of whatever our individual opinions are. We actually need to come together to work as a whole.
Definitely.
Bevis, sorry, before Nick cuts it off, you mentioned earlier that you may be coming up to Manchester. We'd like to be kept in touch and be involved in that event and help spread the word for when you do come.
Indeed, yes. Let's keep in contact concerning that.
Definitely.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys.
Excellent,
Sorry,
guys.
Could I just say to that point, I think you guys could really, and I'm hoping, Bevis, when you were going to do this off air, but I'm going to do it on here. Really, you guys could be involved in actually helping us find a venue, get that together. We'll come in. I'll fly back to England. We'll do it. We'll get it out. We'll get as many people together as possible. So it takes all of us. So yes,
standard. We can do that.
Let's do that. Organise that event, and it's a done deal.
Yeah,
I'll fly
standard.
in for it.
Yeah,
excellent. Okay, we're out of time, guys. Guys, listen, thank you very much for joining us and sharing that information with us. Any last things that you want to share?
I did mine.
Thank you guys, much appreciated for coming on the show.
Our next event is on Saturday, the 14th of December in London.
Okay. And where's that at, Bevis?
At University College London, 20 Bedford Way.
Okay, and anywhere online that people can remind themselves of that?
You can find it on Just Tickets and also on Facebook.
Okay, excellent. Okay, I'm sure, like I said, this will be linking and we'll be linking in the future. So look forward to that and finding out more. You can find out more.
Thank you guys. You guys was amazing today. The questions and just the mindset. So thank you for this. It's been like a really big upliftment for me. So thank you very much.
Wow, same. Reciprocated. Okay, guys, you take care. Nice speaking to you. Okay. Yes. Bevis and Justin there, next level development. You can go online and find out more about that. Guys,
that's night from us. Much appreciated for listening in.
And,
okay, yes.
Signing out.